as well. But for the first time in modern history, we had a viable presidential candidate that ran a people-backed campaign. Unafraid of talking truth to power and unafraid to create real change. He took on our nation's most important issues, like social justice, economic justice, and environmental justice, at a time when the political machine was telling us that if we kept the status quo, everything was going to be all right. Bernie is so fearless that he dared to say that climate change was the biggest national threat in our country over ISIS at a time that mainstream media told us that ISIS was invading our country. And let's be clear, these are not new issues to Bernie. This wasn't a campaign platform he pieced together to run in a primary. He truly believed and meant everything, every word he said. And we know that because the dude has been saying it way before many of us were born in this room. But now look at us. Because the powers that be wanted to keep the status quo, we're living in some of the worst times this country has ever seen. But here in Brooklyn, we've made huge progress. Over the past 3 years, that has changed the lives of many New Yorkers and Americans because of his message, and most importantly, because of all of you in this room. It was Bernie who brought ideas like a $15 minimum wage, the need for college-free tuition. It was us who fought back Jeff Bezos and kicked him out of Long Island City. Right? That progress wasn't made because our mayor and our governor woke up one morning and said, this is the right thing to do. It happened because of Bernie's vision and all of us organizing and working together to get it done. And that's what this campaign is about. It's about us leading the change that is desperately needed in Washington. Now, there are candidates claiming that they'll get the job done, piecing together platforms that they believe will make them an attractive option for us. But we can't be fooled. Bernie Sanders is going to be the next president of the United States of America. Yeah. Bernie. And we're not only going to beat Donald Trump, but he'll ensure that the most progressive agenda gets pushed forward. With Bernie, we have the opportunity to make sure these ideas remain a focal point and trust that he'll be dedicated to making economic, racial, social, and environmental justice a reality. We're going to make healthcare a universal right. We're going to pass a Green New Deal to fight against climate change. We're going to cancel student debt and make college free. And ensure that the wealthy finally start paying their fair share. So we have a lot of work to do. We have to continue organizing and continue fighting. Because when we fight, we win. When we fight, when we fight, when you fight, when Bernie fights, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Please welcome to the stage filmmaker Josh Fox.
Hello, Brooklyn. Are you ready for the revolution? I didn't hear you. I said, are you ready for the political revolution? That's better. Are you ready for a Green New Deal? I don't need to tell you today that we are in a climate emergency. Category 5 hurricanes, unprecedented wildfires, droughts, floods ravaging the earth. Are you ready to turn fracking wells into solar farms and coal mines into wind turbines and nuclear power into battery storage? Are you ready for the energy Are you ready for the energy of the sun and the wind and the water, not the fossil fuels of death, the fuels and the energy of life on this planet? And are you ready to elect Bernie Sanders, the next president of the United States? Yeah, I am too. Yeah. There are a lot of people who are out there who are saying it's impossible, right? No. We've heard this before in New York State. We were told, you're never going to ban fracking in New York State. That train's left the station. You can't beat that industry. But we organized, and we mobilized, and we beat the largest, most powerful industry on the face of the planet, and we banned fracking in New York City, and Plattsburgh, and Buffalo, to Montauk, all across this state. And we set a precedent for the world. And now our political, there was only one candidate who was with us. Who was it? Our political system has entirely been co-opted. Co-opted by the big banks and by both Democrats and Republicans. Let's acknowledge this. By the 1%, by Wall Street, by the frackers, by big oil. And we are here tonight to take our country back. Now, I've been a surrogate for Bernie Sanders since January 2016, and I've watched Bernie Sanders set the agenda for progressive politics for the world in the last 4 years. There are a lot of Democratic candidates out there that are supporting positions that Bernie Sanders put on the agenda. Now they're the mainstream. Now it's the mainstream, the fight for 15, the Green New Deal, Medicare-for-All, legalization of marijuana, criminal justice reform, reining in Wall Street and the 1%. They're all for those things, right? So it's kind of confusing. Maybe, Bernie has just changed everything and it's fine now. But I'll tell you how you know what's true. Because no one is ever elected to the presidency alone, right? They walk in to the White House with all of those relationships. 10 years, 20 years of relationships with lobbyists from big fracking and big pharma. And from Wall Street, taking all their money. Those candidates are taking their money. Look it up. There's only one candidate that has been with you the whole time. When Bernie Sanders walks into the White House, what relationship does he bring with him? That's right, us. We walk into the White House together. Are you ready to go to the White House? Because when we walk into the White House, something unprecedented will finally happen. The people will have a voice. When we walk into the White House, we will restore truth to that place that Donald Trump has sullied with lies. When we walk into the White House, we will end the wars that never should have been started in the first place. Say it with me. When we walk into the White House, we will kick the fossil fuel industry out of the EPA and out of the national parks. When we walk into the White House, we're going to usher in a new era of renewable energy. The political revolution, the revolution will be solarized. When we walk into the White House, we will get universal health care and Medicare-for-All. When we walk into the White House, we will end the insanity at the border of children being stripped from their families. When we walk into the White House, we will stop gun violence and stop these mass shootings. But that means we need you to start walking now. No. We need you to march now. We need you to stampede. We need you to get out in those streets. We need your passion. We need your enthusiasm. We need your love. We need your uncompromising ability to just know what the truth is. You're New Yorkers. You know what it's like to stand up against huge opposition alone. You get on the subway every day. Every person in the room knows what that's like. It's better to be together. We will walk into the White House together. This revolution is what we need. Our movements are coming together, and we will go win the White House together. Let's walk into that White House with Bernie Sanders. We're electing him our next president of the United States. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage activist Linda Sarsour.
What up, Brooklyn? I am so honored and humbled to be here with all of you right here in my hometown, born, bred, raised, Brooklyn, New York. But hold up, I'm not the only one that's born and bred Brooklyn. Uncle Bernie Sanders is back in his hometown of Brooklyn, New York. You probably all already know this, but I love Bernie. Like it's like a deep, deep-seated love in my heart for Bernie. That's right, that's why we're all here. Many of you know that I affectionately call him Ammo Bernie, and Ammo in Arabic means uncle. Turns out it's spread all over the world. Now everyone who's an Arabic speaker in every corner of this world also affectionately calls him Ammo Bernie and wants him to go to the White House. He actually just came back this weekend from one of the largest Muslim gatherings in the country. And in a gathering of all Muslims, the most popular guy was the Jewish guy from Brooklyn. But in all seriousness, it actually brings tears to my eyes when I think about how hard Bernie has been fighting for us for decades. I have never in my life, and in the life of many others who are older than I, have seen an elected official, a politician, work harder than Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders believes in us, and he believes in our worth as a people. We all deserve health care and access to higher education, an economy where we all can thrive and not just the top 1%, and a transformative foreign policy, one that is centered on peace and diplomacy. A foreign policy that sees Palestinians as human beings deserving of human rights and self-determination. Bernie doesn't ask us how much these things will cost, because only people who don't believe we deserve these things will ask us how to pay for things like health care, but never ask us how to pay for endless and unjust wars. Bernie knows where there is a will, there is a way. And Bernie knows we have to fight for everything we believe in even when Bernie gets into the White House. What Bernie has that many don't is he has a movement behind him, because we are behind Bernie Sanders. So I want you to continue to donate, donate, donate. And organize, organize, organize. Because we have to win. This is not the we hope to win campaign. This is not the we will do everything we can campaign. This is the we must win campaign, the we will win campaign. There is so much at stake. And my family here, there are people who are counting on us to win. There are broken and hurt people in every corner of this country that are counting on you to help alleviate some of that pain and suffering. And I hope that Bernie knows how much we love and appreciate him, and how he's the right leader at the right time. And at a time of startling rise in white nationalism and anti-Semitism, I would be so proud to win, but also to make history and elect the first Jewish American president this country, the first Jewish American president this country has ever seen, and for his name to be Bernard Sanders. Don't pay attention to the naysayers, to the pundits, to the polls. Pay attention to the people. Never underestimate the power of a people that want change. Stay focused, stay organized, stay united. We have 15 months ahead of us, and we need to be ready and packed, because we are all going to the White House. Feel the burn! Bernie! 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 Bernie!
Please welcome to the stage hip-hop artist My Son the General.
God, give me the strength to keep on moving, to keep on fighting, to keep on proving to all the non-believers that keep confusing my son with somebody that's going to keep on losing, that I'm a winner despite the forces against me. I still got more wins than losses. I'm a general, that's why I blend with the bosses. It's chess. I can lose a queen and still win with the horses. Been in the sauces and double excels. Got fans saying we love you because you excel despite going through hell and feeling the fire. You see, I'm so real, I inspire the lost souls to find the will to inspire they lost goals before they expire and die in them crossroads. Now, Lord knows that I've given my heart to people who never gave me nothing from the start. That's what set me apart from the rest. It's my soul, not my flesh. It's the way that I display my honor through my tests. That's why I'm a win, because I'm so real. This God's work, so I can't fail. Let's go. Let's go. Put your hands up. This is God's work. If you want Bernie to win, then we're going to make sure he wins. I want to see all your hands in the air right now. Bounce with me. Let's go. Hey, put your hands up. 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 Hey, listen. This is God's work. This is God's work. I wasn't always eating. I had to start first. Had to go through all the bruises and the scars first. Before I got up, I had to fall first. This is God's work. This is God's work. I wasn't always eating, I had to start first. Had to go through all the bruises and the scars first. Before I got up, I had to fall first. At 7 years old, I told my mama I was different. While she was cooking lasagna up in the kitchen, I told her, I'ma get her somebody's poor position. She said, she probably didn't listen. I grinded to the top, got locked up, went to prison. Sitting in the cell, I'm shocked doing the sentence. I didn't stop, I got out, got the kitchen, I got out on the mission. I didn't ask for permission, I was just surviving. I wasn't living, I went out there and took what's mine, it wasn't given. Nah, I wasn't winning, I was losing. The fake people laughed at me, it was confusing. I was confused and I knew I was blessed. Went through the fire, passed all of the tests. I was spitting more fire than all of the rest. That's why I bought for bar, they all know I'm the best. So I'm coming for the top, I don't want nothing less. I'm a hybrid finest, straight out of the west. I'ma just continue to go hard and pray. I know God gon' guide my way, let's go. This is God's work. This is God's work. I wasn't always eating, I had to start first. Had to go through all the bruises and the scars first. Before I got up, I had to go. Put your hands up. This is God's work. Hey, this is God's work. I wasn't always eating, I had to start first. Had to go through all the bruises and the scars first. Before I got up, I had to fall first. This is I was on the block with rock stashed in the side. Sitting Coogee on like big licks in the pot. Right on the block from where the shots got a rock. Around the corner from the big place, a big hop replaced. Bricks got moved, days got proved. It was only one rule, just not lose. I can build with anybody, just white fools. I'm teaching them how to move. It's just like school, it's just drop jewels. But you gotta catch him. If you got an enemy, you just gotta crush him. If you gotta question your man, you can't trust him. You just gotta leave him alone. God bless them. I expect them to hate me, cause I move like a G and they just mad cause they hate me. They can't break me, I'm winning cause I got them. No weapon forms shall prosper, you know what? This is God's work. Hands up, this is God's work. I wasn't always eating, I had to start first. Had to go through all the bruises and the scars first. Before I got up, I had to fall first. This is God's work. This is God's work. I wasn't always eating, I had to start first. I had to go through all the bruises and the scars first. Before I got up, I had to fall first. This is God's work. What's up, y'all? How y'all feeling? Y'all feeling good? Bernie for 2020? I said Bernie for 2020? You know why I support Bernie? Because he got a heart of a lion. He got the heart of a lion, and this song right here represents how I feel like this is about him right here. Let's go.
May not understand all the words.
I need y'all hands in the air. We're going to have a good time tonight. We're going to party. We're going to raise some money. And we're going to win. Listen. Whatever don't break me, just make me stronger. It might take me longer. Whatever don't break me, just make me stronger. It might take me longer. Whatever don't break me, just make me stronger. It might take me longer. But whatever don't break me, just make me stronger. It just make me stronger. Whatever don't break me, gon' make me. I'ma make it to the top, no matter how long it take me. God don't forsake me, protect me, Lord, it's hard. Satan keep trying to tempt me, Lord, but I ain't never gonna sell my soul. I'ma stand up, never fold, till you come and get me, Lord. Before I succumb, before I let them see me sweat, I die. During battle like a Gold Star vet, I told them, you can bet on me, I ain't gonna lose. Sleep's too close to death, so I ain't gonna snooze. I'ma prove that I'm chosen, prove that I'm golden. I ain't never lie, I'ma prove what I told them. When it's all over, when it's all said and done, and the smoke clear, we be shining in the sun. Whoever doubted me couldn't be wrong. It ain't gonna break me, it's only gonna make me stronger. Whatever don't break me, just make me stronger. It might take me longer. Whatever don't break me, just make me stronger. It just make me stronger. Whatever don't break me, just make me stronger. It might take me longer. But whatever don't break me, just make me stronger. It just make me stronger. How you know who you are if you've never been tested? How you gonna profit when you never invested? When you know that you destined, nothing that can stress you. Hate don't matter when you know that you special. Nothing don't stress you when you know your destiny. This God's work, I already know it's meant for me. I was sent to be the voice that inspires, the truth that drowns out the voice of the liars. Your choice to deny us the credit that we earn. Pressure be applied to whoever is concerned. So whenever I return to the essence, I just hope that you can learn from my lessons. I hope that my presence can serve some purpose. I hope my life on earth wasn't worthless. Hope I gave you food for thought that fed your hunger. I hope I made you stronger. Whatever don't break me, just make me stronger. It might take me longer. Whatever don't break me, just make me stronger. It just make me stronger. Whatever don't break me, just make me stronger. It might take me longer. But whatever don't break me, just make me stronger. It just make me stronger. So before I get out of here, you know what we dealing with in this country. You understand how racism and our president is fueling this country in racism and separation. And that's why I support Bernie, because he does exactly the opposite. Black Lives Matter. They ask, why is that a statement that even needs to be made? I say, well, first we'd have to ask, why would anyone believe that we would need to be slaves? Explain to me, please, why is the black man dying at the rate of an endangered species? I say, see, it's because we've normalized abnormality. You see, we've allowed this land of the free to lock up and cage our morality. So now we can casually see the casualty of a black man the same way we see a fly getting swatted by a backhand, or a ghost getting chopped by Pac-Man. Eric Garner got killed on camera, and we barely got justice for that man. And you see how they did Sergeant Bland on that dash cam. But Black Lives Matter is a movement of affirmation. We are telling the nation that a black life cannot be taken without someone being held accountable. You see, we are no longer allowing you to tell a mother that the life that came out of you is insignificant than tell a cop to kill their kid that we are proud of you. It's unacceptable. See, it's unacceptable to get shot down in your vestibule by the ones who are supposed to be protecting you. But then I reckon you would say, but what about black on black crime? You see, blacks kill more blacks than anybody, and the stats support those facts. Fine. But that's when you're trying to rationalize someone who's been traumatized, who before 4 had to endure more acts of homicide than a soldier going to war. So I'm going to have to apologize on their behalf because their brains have been polarized. They've been taught to idolize money, so now they itemize. Trying to rise, now their lives are worth less than some dollar fries from mama's fries inside their eyes because they've been lied to. So someone tell Trump that black on black crime is derivative. And if we don't give these kids no hope or no food, then they're going to find a way to get it then. See, living in the ghetto, we get it, man. We either going to rap, play ball, or we might die or go to prison then. Hell, they building a prison right now. Who you think going to live in it? I don't mean no disrespect, hope no one's taking offense. But if we don't understand racism, then nothing I'm saying is going to make sense. But Black Lives Matter is self-explanatory. We're telling you that black lives have value, and we ain't asking it's mandatory. That's why I stand here. That's why I stand here the way Dr. King took a stand before me. With more than a dream, no, he had a plan for glory and equality. You see, he wanted blacks and whites to live together in conditions of equal quality. And him inside of me is seeking the same thing. That's why I'm up here speaking. I'm hoping I'm reaching someone who can eventually change things, because we hold the keys to transforming this nation in the separation in all its degrees. So please take heed, because the fact of the matter is we can't say all lives until Black Lives Matter. God bless you. Bernie! 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 Bernie!
Please welcome to the stage Bernie 2020 Development Director, Malia Stenzel-Gilligan.
Hello, Brooklyn. You are looking awesome. So I have a couple of important messages. I think I've probably emailed everyone in this room at least a dozen times if more. So first of all, thank you for coming out and being part of the political revolution. Second, we need your passion, your energy, your resources, and everything you can bring to this race. I know I don't need to tell a single person in this crowd how important it is to get other folks involved in this race. Everyone put their cell phone up for me. I know we all got them. Take them out. Everyone, get them out of your pocket. Come on, way in the back. I need to see some cell phones. Way in the back upstairs. I need you to go to this app. It's called the Burn app. BERNAPP. I need you to go there. I love it right here. I need you to go there. I need you to commit to getting folks engaged in this campaign. Because we know we have the people and we know we have the power, but we need to organize and we need to get them out. And we need everyone in this room, everyone in Brooklyn, and everyone in New York to do that. The second thing I need you to do, show the Bernie love. As I see some shirts already and I love it. In the back, they're ready to sell our t-shirts. Our Artists for Bernie, thank you so much. We need to be building that political revolution, and we need to be showing that political revolution. So please take a moment and do that. And finally, if you have a moment, always use that text to give. We love it. We love that this is a campaign that's fueled by small dollar contributions. I don't need to tell you that we have the numbers, we have the force, and we have the grassroots, so please keep it coming. Please keep it coming through your donations, and most importantly, please keep it coming through that Burn app. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thank you, Brooklyn! Thank you. It is nice to be back in Brooklyn, where I grew up. And boy, a lot of people in here. Thank you all for coming in. All right, let me begin by thanking Tommy Sunshine and Cat Power and Raphael Espinal and Josh Fox, Linda Sarsour, my son, the General. Well, I love you too. And, you know, we're going to need a lot of love and a lot of trust because we have a big, big struggle in front of us. And what this struggle is about is not just defeating a president who is a racist and a sexist and a homophobe and a xenophobe and a religious bigot. We're just getting warmed up here, but, you know, and a pathological liar. But we don't want to waste too much time on Trump. Because what we are going to do in this campaign is exactly the opposite of what Trump is doing. Trump, all of you know, in an unprecedented way, what Trump is doing is what demagogues all over the world do and have historically done. And what they do to retain their wealth and power is try to divide the people up. They divide them up by the color of their skin. They divide them up by their religion, where they came from, their sexual orientation, their gender. They divide people up. And what our campaign is about is exactly the opposite. It is bringing people together, black and white and Latino, Asian American, Native American, immigrant, native-born, gay, straight. We're going to bring our people together around a progressive agenda that works for all of us, not just wealthy campaign contributors. So tonight, I'm here to thank you for your support in helping us to win here in New York, in helping us to win the Democratic nomination, in helping us to defeat the most dangerous president in modern history. But tonight, I'm here to ask something more. And that is, beating Trump is not all that we have to do. What we have to do is to transform this country and create an economy, an energy system, and a government that work for all of us, not just the 1%. And what I will tell you is what no other candidate for president perhaps has ever told you. And that is that no president, no matter how honest and well-intentioned he or she may be, can do it alone. Can't do it alone. And the message of our campaign, as all of you know, it's a very simple message, but if you think about it, it is a very profound message. And what it says is us, not me. All right? And that means to me two very, very important things. First of all, what it means is our vision of what life is about, what we want to be as human beings, are not people who step on other people, who lie, cheat, steal, and do anything we can. And Trump is a pretty good example of that, in order to make a whole lot of money. That's what their life is about. The goal of their life, how can I make billions? And no matter what I do to other people is acceptable, because the goal in life is to make billions. Our vision is very different. And our vision is that we are more human when we reach out and assist and help other people. That when billionaires fight for more tax breaks to make even more billions of dollars, it speaks to their addiction to money. And I got to tell you the truth about this, and I'm quite serious about it. You know, all of you know we have a serious addiction issue in the United States. People are addicted to all kinds of terrible drugs, addicted to alcohol. But I believe that when people have billions of dollars and they are prepared to step on other people, they advocate for the cuts in Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, education, that we are dealing with a serious addiction problem. That they are addicted to their greed. Now, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I am going to tell you that we are going to treat that sickness in a very bold way. We are going, and this is big stuff, and it is hard stuff. And when we call our movement a political revolution, that is what we are talking about. That is what we are talking about, because you know and I know that no president can do it alone because of a power structure in this country which has unbelievable wealth and unbelievable power and very significant control over the media that tells us what we read, see, and hear. All right? There are a lot of power out there. So what this campaign is about is taking on Wall Street. It is taking on the insurance industry. It is taking on the crooks in the pharmaceutical industry. It is taking on the fossil fuel industry. It is taking on the military-industrial complex. It is taking on the prison industrial complex. And it is taking on the whole damn 1%. So this is tough stuff. I mean, if I'm here to tell you, you know, there was, we put up something on our social media that said a lot of candidates have listed all the people, famous people who endorse them. You know, we do that too. But mostly, I'm kind of proud of all the people who have proclaimed they will do everything possible to defeat us because they hate our guts. So you can tell something about a person in terms of who their enemies are, and our enemies are legion because they run this country today. And what this campaign is about also is demanding that the American people think outside of the box. Nelson Mandela said something, and I may be missing a word or two here, but to paraphrase him, what he said is that everything is impossible until it is done. In other words, we are told every day, oh, you can't do this. What are you thinking about? You're crazy. You can't do that. And then after it happens, everyone goes, no big deal. Of course, everybody agreed with you. You understand what I'm saying here? So what our job is to break through those barriers and to demand that the American people think big, not small. You know, for decades and decades, we have been told that it is the natural order of things that we're supposed to give tax breaks to billionaires, that we're supposed to bail out the crooks on Wall Street. That's the way it is. That we're supposed to spend more on the military than the next 10 nations combined. that we're supposed to be involved in endless wars, that we're supposed to give hundreds of billions a year in tax breaks and subsidies to the fossil fuel industry. That's the way it is, guys. It's the way it's always been. It's the way it is. Half a million people sleeping out on the streets tonight. Public schools falling apart. People paying 50% of their limited incomes for housing. That's the way it is. All right. But that is what the system tells you every single day. And that is what this campaign is about. To quote Mandela, we can make the impossible possible. But to do that requires of us to do several very important things. Number one, it requires us to have a vision of where we want to be going. You can't do serious politics if you don't know where the hell you want to go. And second of all, no, it is not just me, it is you. I got my job, you got your job. We got to do it together. And the second thing is just that point. Everybody in this room understands that real change, real structural change, never takes place from the top on down. It is always from the bottom on up. A 100+ years ago, workers in this country were not given the permission to form unions. They fought and struggled and went to jail and died to tell their employers that they would not be treated like animals. They would engage in collective bargaining and have a union. We did not end segregation in this country because somebody signed the bill in the White House. We ended it because the African American community and their white allies stood up, went to jail, and fought back and said that we will end racism in the United States. 100 years ago today, hard to believe, but this is what Mandela was talking about. 100 years ago today, women did not have the right to vote. There were very few job opportunities, educational opportunities for women. And we were told 100 years ago, that's the way it is. That is a woman's place in the world. That's natural. But women did not accept that. They stood up. They fought back. I am a little bit older than most of you. I can remember in my own state, which helped lead, Vermont helped lead the fight for gay rights in this country, by the way. But I can remember, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, marching in parades at around the time we were dealing with gay marriage, or what was called civil unions before gay marriage, and watching in parades, and people were screaming at me. They were bitter. They were angry. Gay marriage is going to destroy the world. It's terrible. It's horrible. Today, nobody even talks about it. The Republicans don't even run ads about it anymore. All right? And that's what happens when you make change from the grassroots on up. And let me give you a few more examples of that, where we should be proud. My point is, getting back to Mandela's point, is that when people become mobilized and they stand up and fight for justice, after they succeed, people say, hey, it's not a big deal. You know, of course, everybody always believed that. Let me give you some very concrete examples. Right now, what's happening as we speak. When I was here 4 years ago, campaigning in New York State, I talked about the need to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. 4 years ago, that was perceived to be a very radical idea. Today, 7 states, including this state, have already passed $15. 4 years ago, another idea that was perceived to be so radical and extreme, and that is we got to make public colleges and universities tuition free. Well, guess what? All across the country, that radical idea is now being implemented in state after state, community after community. 4 years ago, we talked about the absolute obscenity of millions and millions of our people struggling with outrageous levels of student debt. And we said then we got to deal with that issue. What we are saying now is we have to cancel all student debt in this country. Why are we punishing people for the crime of having gotten an education? What did they do wrong? They went out, they went to school, maybe they went to graduate school, maybe they went to medical school, dental school, now they owe hundreds of thousands of dollars. For what? Because they got an education. That is absurd. Now, people say, they say, Bernie, this is once again, we're going to change the world. It takes one day at a time. And they say, today, they're saying, oh, Bernie, your idea is so expensive. It costs $2.2 trillion over 10 years to make public colleges and universities tuition-free, to expand Pell Grants, work-study programs, and to cancel all student debt. That is, it's a lot of money, but somehow or another, it is impossible to do that. But when it came to bailing out the crooks on Wall Street, not a problem. Not a problem. Not a problem to give $1.5 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and large profitable corporations. Not a problem. Not a problem. As I mentioned, to spend $750 billion a year on the military. Not a problem. So we are going to pay for public colleges and universities being tuition-free and canceling all student debt by placing a modest tax on Wall Street speculation. Which, by the way, is not a radical idea. It already exists in countries all over the world. And I want to touch on another issue where we are making really significant progress, but we're going to run into enormous opposition. 4 years ago, when I came to New York and to other states, I said, health care is a human right, not a privilege. And I said that it is an embarrassment for this country to be the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. Not to mention that in the dysfunctional system we have today, we are spending twice as much per capita on health care as do the people of any other country. Not to mention that every day we are getting ripped off by the drug companies who charge us the highest prices in the world for the medicine that we need. So over the last 4 years, what's been happening is people have been taking a look at the healthcare system because we've been talking about it. And people are beginning to say, wait a minute, we're spending twice as much as the people of any other country, and yet 87 million Americans are either uninsured or underinsured. That's pretty crazy. We're spending more than any other country. 30,000 people a year die because they don't get to the doctor when they should because they're uninsured or underinsured. And here is something that, again, when you take a deep breath and you take a step back and you think about it, you say, this is really, really crazy shit. And that is, and I want you to think about it. Point that I'm trying to make is you don't hear Congress talking about it. You don't hear CBS and ABC talking about it. But we have got to take a deep breath and ask ourselves this simple question. How can we allow not only 30,000 people a year to die, but 500,000 people a year to go bankrupt because they can't pay their medical bills? Think about it. Think about it for a second. And when you think about it, here's what you got to think about. Somebody is diagnosed. Somebody is not feeling well. They go to the doctor. Doctor says, I got some bad news for you. You have breast cancer. You have another form of cancer. Serious stuff. We're going to have to treat you. It's going to be hard. And people, you know, they're reeling with this diagnosis. And they're figuring out, okay, now, what doctor do I go to? What kind of treatment? Who has the best ideas? I got to research this. I got to do that. And if I'm in a hospital, who's going to be working to feed my family? And what hospital do I go to? And all that stuff. A lot of things you got to be dealing with. But can you imagine the people who are dealing with cancer, who are dealing with serious heart disease, who are dealing with somebody in the family having Alzheimer's or whatever? And then on top of all of that, understanding that if they get a bill for $50,000 or $100,000, they are going to go bankrupt. Their credit is shot. They are in financial ruin. Take a step back and think about the barbarity of a system which destroys people's financial life. For what reason? Because they came down with cancer or heart disease? That is disgraceful, and together we're going to end that. And I want to just say, what I'm talking about is not radical. It is, you know, I live in Burlington, Vermont. I live 50 miles away from the Canadian border. Does anybody happen to know that if you go to the hospital in Canada with serious surgery, what is the bill when you come out? Anyone know? That's right. That's exactly right. It is zero. You go to any doctor you want. You don't take out your wallet. You don't take out your credit card. Your health care needs are treated because you are a human being. The doors are open to all. So what our Medicare-for-All program is about, we expand Medicare to cover dental care, hearing aids and eyeglasses, and home health care. And under our legislation, nobody in America will pay more than $200 a year for prescription drugs. And we are able to do that because we're going to lower the cost of prescription drugs in this country, because we're going to end the absurdity of the drug companies being able to charge us any price they want. So when you talk about a dysfunctional system, I don't know if any of you know, last month I went up to Canada with a bunch of people who had diabetes. The diabetics who were with me were able to buy insulin for 1/10 of the price they paid in the United States. Can you believe that? And actually, Canada's drug prices are fairly high internationally. So we're going to tell the drug companies they're no longer going to rip off the American people. We're going to lower their price. Nobody in America pays more than $200 a year for the medicine that they need. And what Medicare for All is about, not a radical idea. We're doing away with all premiums. We're doing away with all co-payments. No more deductibles, no more out-of-pocket expenses. When you get sick, you go to the doctor. And we're going to pay for it as every other major country pays for it out of the general tax base. We're going to do it in a progressive way, which means that the overwhelming majority of the people will pay less for comprehensive health care than they are paying right now. And the way it works, you know, I've been attacked, we're going to disrupt the healthcare system. That is absolutely untrue. Here's the way it works, pretty simple. Right now, you have people 65 and older are eligible for Medicare. We're going to lower it to 55 in the first year, 45 the second year, 35 the third year, and fourth year, everybody is in. Healthcare for all is a human right. Now, I should tell you, though, because it gets back to not me, but you. Most people in America think that's a pretty good idea. But there is a small group of people who have a modest disagreement with us. And those are the greedy folks in the insurance industry and the drug companies who last year made $100 billion in profit. And they kind of don't think that Medicare for all is a great idea. So what you will be seeing now, think about it. You make $100 billion last year. You take 1% of those profits, $1 billion, you put it onto television ads and radio and newspaper, all that stuff. And they are going to be all over this country, running all kinds of ads, demonizing me, demonizing Medicare for all. All that I ask you, when you see those ads, understand who is paying for it. Understand that what this whole thing is about is they will do everything possible to protect their enormous profits. They could care less whether people die because they don't have health insurance. They could care less if people cannot afford the medicine they need. All they are worried about is their profits. And we got some really bad news for them. We are going to create a healthcare system that guarantees healthcare to all in a non-profit way. But I need your help. This is a human rights struggle. Understand it for what it is. Either health care is a human right or it is not. We believe that it is. We must have the courage to take on the insurance industry and the drug companies. Now, I don't like to waste a lot of time on Donald Trump. But one area where he is dangerous, not only for our country, but for the entire world, is his stupidity in thinking that climate change is a hoax. Now, what the scientists tell us, as all of you know, is that not only is climate change not a hoax, but it is already causing significant damage to our country and to the rest of the world, that it is man-made, and that if we do not get our act together in a very short period of time, they're telling us fewer than 12 years, climate change will cause irreparable damage not only to our country, but countries all over the world. And what we are talking about are more and more extreme weather disturbances. We are talking about more drought, which we're seeing all over this country, more forest fires. I was in Paradise, California, where some of you remember last year, that terrible fire killed 86 people, 18,000 buildings destroyed, $14 billion in damage. It was unbelievable to see what went on there. And that is the future of our country and the world if we do not stand up to the fossil fuel industry and transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energies like wind and solar. Now, I have been criticized once again for proposing what in fact is the most comprehensive climate change program ever introduced. And my critics, you know, some of the critics say, hey, climate change is not real, fine. And the others say, well, Bernie, it's too expensive, fine. But I say to them, tell me what the alternative is when we are fighting for the future of the planet. How much is too much? It seems to me that we have a moral responsibility to make certain that the planet we leave our children and grandchildren and future generations is a planet that is healthy and habitable. And when we go forward with our proposal, we will create up to 20 million good-paying jobs, transforming our energy system, weatherizing our buildings, creating a new transportation system. And when we do that, also, what we have to understand, and this is really tough stuff, is this is not just transforming the United States' energy system. This is demanding that countries all over the world come together, because this is not an American issue, this is a global issue. Now, my dream is, and I don't know that we can do this, but this is the vision, is to tell countries around the world that maybe, just maybe, instead of spending $1.5 trillion a year, every year, on weapons of destruction designed to kill each other, maybe we should pool those resources and more and fight against our common enemy, which is climate change. Now think about, I'm not going to suggest to you that this is easy stuff. This is not easy stuff. It's a crazy world out there. But maybe, the vision is, can you see young people in Russia and China, all over the world, beginning to stand up and say to the leaders of their country, sorry, we want our kids to grow up in a habitable planet. You are going to transform this energy system. Let me say just a few words on a couple of other issues that are on people's minds. I get a little bit tired as a United States Senator from hearing many of my right-wing colleagues talk about how they hate big government, how they want to get government off the backs of the people. You ever hear them talking about that? They just love small government. They want human freedom. Get that big, bad government out of people's lives, except if you are a woman who wants to control her own body. So we have the kind of conservative idea that maybe it is a woman, not the local government, not the state government, not the federal government, but it is a woman who will make those decisions about her own body. Let me say a word about another issue that I really do emotionally. It gets me. It's hard to talk about because it is so horrific. But all of you, of course, are aware what's been happening in the last few weeks in El Paso, in Dayton, and Odessa, Texas, and what's been happening over the years. And what bothers me about this, I hate the idea that children are living in fear, going to school, and parents are worried what will happen to their kids. This is really awful stuff. So clearly, What we have got to do in the Congress is everything humanly possible to end these types of massacres that we are seeing with guns. All right? And here is the good news. Here is really the quite good news on the issue. It turns out that people all over the country, whether they're in rural states like Vermont or urban cities like New York, whether they're gun owners or non-gun owners, people now support what we call common sense gun safety legislation. And it's called common sense because it is common sense. So everybody agrees, polls say more than 90% of the people agree, that we have to expand background checks, that if people have a history of violence or instability, that they might hurt somebody else or themselves, they should not own a gun. Not a radical idea. People want to end the so-called gun show loophole, which allows people to avoid the background checks at gun shows and buy guns legally. People want to end the straw man provision, which allows you to walk into a gun shop and buy weapons and then sell them to criminal elements. And increasingly, people now support something that I have supported for many decades, and that is a ban on assault weapons. And there's much more. Those are just some of the ideas that are out there. So the question that you might ask yourself is, how does it happen if these are the ideas that the American people support, Democrat, Republican, Independent, rural, urban, why isn't Congress going forward? And the answer is that you got a Republican Party that is scared to death of the NRA. That's about it. That's the whole story in a nutshell. So let me tell you what I think you already know. This president will not be intimidated by the NRA. So let me just conclude by saying this. First of all, actually somebody is groaning because a politician is ceasing to speak. I am really flattered by that. Usually when some politician says in conclusion, people start cheering. So I was really delighted to hear the groan there. That was good. All right. But let me just say that. We love you too. Look, through no fault of yours and no fault of mine, we find ourselves in a momentous moment, not only in American history, but in world history. That's just the way it is. And by the way, it's not just Trump. I mean, Trump is a manifestation of that in terms of his ugliness and his greed and his pathology. But it's not just Trump. It's deeper than Trump. That's simply the truth. And it's not just the United States. We're seeing the growth of authoritarianism in countries all over the world. We're seeing a growth in anti-immigration feeling, in racism and anti-Semitism all over the world. So we are here where we are. And what our job is to understand that we don't, in a sense, have the right to throw up our arms in despair. We don't have the right to get depressed, no matter how horrible what we see on TV or read in the papers are about. Because, brothers and sisters, and this is not rhetoric, this is reality, we are fighting not only for the future of this country, we are fighting for the very survival of this planet. We are fighting for whether or not we remain a democratic society or whether we move to authoritarianism. We are fighting about whether or not we can bring our people together or whether we're going to be divided up by the color of our skin or our religion or where we were born, whether we revert back to tribalism. That's what we're fighting for. So what I am asking of you tonight, obviously I'm asking for your help to win here in New York, to win the Democratic nomination. But I am asking much more. I would not have run for president just to defeat Trump. And by the way, let me tell you this. Every poll in the last year has us beating Trump and beating him badly. And let me also say, see, your groan got me going, so I'm going to talk a little bit longer. And let me also say, you know, there are differences of opinion as to the best way to beat Trump. And there are some folks who say, well, you got to run a kind of conservative and moderate campaign. I agree. And I agree because I think forget policy for the moment, but from a political point of view, the only way, do not underestimate Trump. The only way we win is when there is a giant turnout. And the only way you create that giant, unprecedented turnout is when you create energy and excitement in a campaign. And the only way you create energy and excitement in a campaign is when you talk to the real issues impacting working people and young people and people who believe in justice. People understand and are sick and tired of the greed and corruption of the corporate elite. People are sick and tired of the reality that over the last 45 years, despite all of the increase in worker productivity and the explosion of technology, guess what? The average American worker is not making a nickel more than he or she did 45 years ago, accounting for inflation. The American people are sick and tired of seeing in the last 30 years the top 1% getting a $21 trillion increase in their wealth, while half of the people in this country live paycheck to paycheck. And the people are sick and tired of a lot of things, all right? So what we have got to do, and this is not easy, we are running an unprecedented campaign. And by the way, your presence here today, you should know this, when we talk about an unprecedented campaign. As of this point in the campaign, we have received more contributions than any campaign in American history. And we raise our money not by going to millionaires' living rooms. We raise it $19 at a time. We raise it mostly, not mostly, our major source of contributions are teachers. If you can believe it, a major source of our contributions come from workers at Walmart who are making $11, $12 an hour. So what makes this campaign unprecedented are two basic realities. Number one, we understand that we will not bring the change this country needs unless we have the courage to take on the greed and corruption of the corporate elite. Not an easy fight. They have incredible wealth and incredible power. Second of all, what makes this campaign unique is what we believe is that the only way you succeed in doing that is when millions and millions of working people come together, stand up, and tell the ruling class of this country that they will no longer continue to have it all. So, brothers and sisters, this is an unprecedented moment in American history. We are running an unprecedented campaign, and if we stand together, we are going to win this election. We're going to transform this country. Thank you all very much.
So everybody, who wants to do a selfie with Bernie? Okay. So here's what we're going to do. First, please raise the house lights. Second, there is a line that's going to form. Where's my line former?